Hello, viewers, and welcome back. I was going through some of my archives of drone footage. I thought I'd share with you. This drone footage here was taken in 2020 by my friend Michael Homesby. So me and him were both in the Solomon Islands together. Michael runs a YouTube page. He had some good drone footage, and I'll make sure I put the link below. So this drone footage today is going to feature particularly around the Bloody Ridge in a Coffin Corner area. There's some good footage. I'll stop, add some comments. I've got a couple of maps, try to orientate you to this site. Now, this area featured heavily in the Battle of Bloody Ridge, Retz's Ridge in September, and more importantly, in the major Battle of Henderson Field in October 42. So I'll cover both of those engagements as we go. All right, so what for you? So on top of Bloody Ridge, right? So we're looking east and heading the front edge of Bloody Ridge. Here, I'll go further, and I'll stop it. All right, so this is the very eastern spur where it drops off into Bloody Ridge, and this is looking due east. Very swampy terrain. In there, you can see some of the locals have been actually clearing some of the land, encroaching and cutting it back. But once they clear it for their gardens, they can let it go for a year and it just goes straight back. Keep going here. Now when it starts to pan, and it's panning north. It's the area behind Bloody Ridge. Okay, I'll stop there. All right, so now you can't see it, but in the far distance is Iron Bottom Sound and the Florida Islands. It'll be another spot a bit closer and later on in the video, but Fighter Field 1, the auxiliary field of Henderson, is in the foreground there. Some of the clearing you can see, but there's a better photo of it later, or better footage of it later. So we'll keep going. What we're trying to do here when we research is trying to find a Sector 3 trail. And the Sector 3 trail ran from Fighter 1, supplied the vital ties to that line that the Marines and later the Army dug on the southern, featured heavily in the October battle when the Japanese Sendai Division hit the Marines there and the Army. So you can see in the middle of the screen, there's some patches. It kind of goes straight heading that's north. So those patches are actually follows the line of the old road or old track. So Fighter 1 in the distance there, top left is Henderson Field. And then if you come back toward the bottom of the slide, you'll start to get to Fighter 1. And then when the jungle started thick there, you started encroaching and getting into the tracks and trails that ran into the supply trail, which is Sector 3. Yeah, so that's Fighter 1 in the clearing. You start to see, you know, the drone was going down a bit, but yeah, in the top of the video, that's going to be Fighter 1. I was just trying to see if I could pick out a track or a road, but it's not there clearly in this one. So during the battles, mainly in the October battle for Henderson Field, the Marines had established a line from September, if you remember, after the battle for Bloody Ridge. So the 7th Marines, major reinforcement landed on the 18th of September, and Vandergriff at that stage when the 7th Marines landed had a full complement. He could do a 360-degree defensive perimeter around the Lunga point in the airfield. So he sent the 7th Marines down to man that vital defensive line on the southern front. So they dug in concrete log bunkers, so it's concrete, sandbags, some steel plating, and they dug in. They put a few strands of barbed wire up, and they started improving it quite a lot. But this is all thick jungle and very, very swampy in this area. If you look at my John Basilone video, you can see how swampy it is. And then even in my Coffin Corner video, and Coffin Corner is up to the top right, and I'll have a good show of that a bit later. What I'll do, I'll add to the stream here, see if I can do it. It's actually a map, so stand by. So you can see the map here. This is the area where we're focusing on where this drone is flying over. So this depicts the October 24th to the 27th attack by the Japanese Sendai Division there in the bottom. A mass attack, the largest attack on the island. So they hit that southern front. You can see the 164, that's the 164th Army Regiment, and the 7th, which is the 7th Marine Regiment. It's only really one understrength battalion, which is the 1st Battalion of the 7th Marines under Chesty Puller. Top right, you see fighter strip. So that was Fighter Field 1. This was in October. It wasn't built up that extensive. As that drawing has there, that was more later in 44 and 45, probably late 43. And Henderson wouldn't even built up to that extent in October. But roughly you get a good view of what the terrain was flying over. And you can see on this map here, this is one of the U.S. Army maps for the U.S. Army official history. So you can see the thickness there that really depict it. Now also bear in mind, if some of you guys remember, on the 7th of August, the 1st Marine Regiment landed, and their task was to take the Grassy Knoll, which was Mount Austin. So when they landed, they moved, they headed south and southwest, and they got caught up in this thick swamp that the drone is actually flying over. And that's what delayed them. So after the first day, they spent the first night in the jungle, and the second day, they basically said, okay, don't go to Mount Austin, which is a grassy knoll, which was really unachievable. And they told them to basically head north and hit Henderson, which they did. But this is the terrain they're actually going over. All right, I'll go back to the video. So this is the terrain the 1st Marine Regiment had to move through. You can see some of the grassy kunai fields was there during the campaign, and then you get into the thick jungle. Doesn't look that daunting from here, but I guarantee you, if you go in there, you'll be disorientated after about 100 meters. You can see some of the fires that locals are burning off. Now we're looking, I'll stop here. Yeah, that was panning. So we're looking southeast. This is the thick jungle that the Japanese 2nd Division had to attack through. You can see how it channelized them. There were small jungle tracks. I think there were only 3 well-established trails heading north to south or south to north, depending on which way you go, in that October battle. And then the Kawaguchi's 35th Brigade, Kawaguchi Detachment, in September, before the Battle of Bloody Ridge of September 13th to 15th to 42, they had to move through this thick jungle too. And you can just see how it can, especially at night, how it can really disorientate a unit. And they were only attacked on the October. They only could attack in company and platoon size, so 40 to maybe 100 size men. And that's why the Marines, which was at that stage only 500 Marines scattered over 2,500 yards, could beat back a determined assault by Japanese, 2 reinforced Japanese regiments, because the Japanese only attacked in small piecemeal dribs and drabs, you could say. So we'll continue panning now. So looking south, you'll see some of the hills. A good shot of Briggs Outpost, which is the combat outpost the Marines had established before the October battle. Once again, we're just trying to locate trails. We just wanted to get an eye view to see if we could locate a vital Sector 3 trail, mainly involving the research with the John Basilone, really pinning it down exactly where it was and get as much information as I could on Basilone, which I've gathered over 5 years of intensive research. Once again, you can see how thick that is. And this is the terrain that the Japanese, stop there, the Japanese attacked over in the September and October battles. So September battle with Kawaguchi, so they basically moved from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. And some of these ridges to the right was where Kawaguchi had his command post during the Battle of Bloody Ridge. And Briggs Outpost, I think we have a better view of it in a minute, but Briggs Outpost is dead ahead. It's the first rise about 12 o'clock. So that was a combat outpost that the Marines would rotate every day, roughly a reinforced platoon of about 40 Marines. Generally had a couple of medium machine gun sections with them, or squads, sorry, and a 60 millimeter mortar. So they were about 1,000 yards ahead, out, punched down in front of the Marine lines. They didn't really want to be there. Battalion commander didn't want to be there, but regimental and division command wanted them up there. If you remember in the HBO series, The Pacific, Ralph Briggs, which was a platoon sergeant, they didn't have any lieutenant at the time. The platoon sergeant was up there on the field phone. The field phone was wired into the rest of the battalion. And Chesty Puller, battalion commander, Ralph Briggs gets on the radio and says, "We've got the whole effing Japanese army coming past us." So Puller basically tells them to move off to their right, which is, if you're looking here, to the left, and try to come in through the army lines, which was to the left at Coffin Corner, they call it, where the 164th was, and move back in. So I have a video just on Briggs Outpost, so you can look at it from that view and look back toward Bloody Ridge. So Briggs Outpost is to the left. You'll see it there. Come up. Looks like it's starting to rain. I see raindrops flying in. Yeah, Briggs Outpost is about 11 o'clock there. That barren hill to the left, that's Briggs. And then you have Coffin Corner, which is a bowling alley. Oh, drones flying around. Hopefully lock her back in a second. Yeah, so this is the terrain directly in front of Bloody Ridge and in the area where the Marines manned in the 7th Marines. This was very thick. You can see it, actually, you probably can't see it there, but that's a local's garden. We're looking straight on top of it. So they clear the land to put the guardings in. So on the right-hand side, that's the eastern spur of Bloody Ridge. And on top of the ridge is where the Marines had their positions, dug in the bunkers. And I've got enough videos for you guys to see. Now, I'll stop here. That's a great shot of Bloody Ridge and the Lunga River. If you look to the far distance, that's the Lunga River, L-U-N-G-A. And this is Bloody Ridge. And you've got Edson's command post, which is hill number 2 in the far distance. Hill number 1 is the hill to the left, and that's the ridge spine. You can see how the Marines manned that. In the middle spur there, you can probably see it. You got the left is the front facing, and that's the middle spur. And I have 3 videos just on Bloody Ridge itself. That's where the parachute regiment was. Sorry, the parachute battalion during the September Battle of Edson's Ridge or Bloody Ridge. They had the second line there. I wish I had a pointer, but you can see a good view of it there. You can see how steep that is. And believe me, I think one of my videos were, I'm trying to think which one it is, but I think some relics. I found some relics. I basically go straight down that hill. It just shows you the steepness of it. Once again, that's the front of it. So you can see one of the Japanese, especially, I'll start with the September attack on Edson's Ridge. That was all thick jungle where it's cleared now. So they deviated to the right of the ridge or to their left to take the path of the least resistance, which is the way the Japanese infiltration techniques work, especially at night. Instead of going straight up that hill, they moved to the left. The command post is in those first set of hills and ridges in the battle. And the Japanese moved along those ridges for their attack points. Briggs Outpost A, you can see it just sticking up at 12 o'clock. So this was the attack path of the 2nd Division during October. So you can imagine Briggs Outpost there at 12 o'clock. The Japanese attacked straight from there, straight basically where the drone is flying over and hit the Marine lines. You can just see how it'd be hard to try to move 6,000 Japanese straight through there without them not getting disorientated. So they took the path of least resistance, which is the tracks, the trails, and that's what the Marines had covered extensively and heavily with 37 millimeter anti-tank guns, heavy machine guns, artillery, mortars. In fact, the Basilone position is probably a little bit to the left of where this drone's looking. And he was covering, or his guns were covering this sector 3, a vital track, along with a 37 millimeter anti-tank gun. So good view there. And we're going to fly along the front of Bloody Ridge. And myself and Michael are just, can't see it, but there's a little off. There's a good view looking back. So it's looking northeast. That's a great shot of the attack, and now coffee crews are clearing probably in the distance there. You can't hardly see it. And we're coming in for a landing. Yep. Now, I'll stop there. In some of my videos, I'll talk about rear bunker positions. So a lot of rear bunker positions, especially when I was there when they cleared all the backside of that ridge to the right. And just opened up like a time capsule of bunkers, gear, equipment. It laid it out perfect. We I marked it out in each one of those bunkers. And this is where they had on their reverse slope. They slept. They had their command posts. And stop it there. Let's see if I can get another map up for you. So once again, that's the area where we're looking at. I can't get the other map at this stage. Just see. All right, I'll try one more time to see if I can get it. Stand by. No, I can't get it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short video. You can look in some of my other videos to get a good, I guess, orientation of what that was, but hopefully enjoyed it. I thought that you guys might get a kick out of that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this stage, I'm back in Guadalcanal, or back on Guadalcanal last week of September. And there, I hope to film in detail the second raiders at Asamana and a few other small areas I didn't get to. All right, hope you enjoyed this, and see you later.